7 lessons from Buddhism that will awaken your inner strength. Buddhism has long been a path not of worship, but of awakening, a philosophy that helps the human being see beyond illusion and touch the essence of inner peace. In a world consumed by constant noise, endless desires and emotional turbulence, Buddhist teachings shine like a lantern in the fog, guiding us back to the clarity that already exists within. The Buddha did not give us a religion to follow blindly. He offered practical tools to train the mind, strengthen the heart, and awaken an inner strength capable of transforming suffering into wisdom. This strength is not loud or aggressive. It doesn't depend on external victories or validation. Rather, it is a quiet, unshakable power born from understanding. The kind of strength that allows you to face pain with compassion, failure with patience, and uncertainty with peace. The purpose of this journey, through the 7 lessons from Buddhism that will awaken your inner strength, is to help you rediscover that sacred power within you. Let us begin by walking through the first of these lessons, one that forms the very foundation of the Buddhist path. Accept what is, and you will discover freedom. The first lesson of Buddhism that awakens inner strength is acceptance, not resignation, but the deep and conscious acknowledgement of reality as it is. The Buddha's first noble truth tells us that life contains suffering, dukkha. This truth is not pessimism, it is an act of courage. Only when we face things as they are, without denial, without resistance, can transformation begin. We spend much of our lives running away from what we feel. We resist pain, regret, loneliness, or loss. We imagine that by resisting them, we protect ourselves. But in truth, it is resistance that creates our suffering. The more we reject what is, the tighter the knot becomes inside our minds. Acceptance, on the other hand, is a radical act of liberation. When you learn to accept, you no longer fight against the river of life. You learn to float. You begin to understand that events are neither for nor against you. They simply are. This understanding transforms how you relate to everything. The same pain that once felt unbearable becomes a teacher. The same loneliness that once terrified you becomes a sacred space of self-discovery. Acceptance does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means seeing reality clearly and acting wisely instead of reacting blindly. A warrior of the spirit accepts that storms come, but they no longer define his peace. He remains grounded like a mountain that stands firm through all seasons. When you practice acceptance, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for circumstances to be perfect before feeling calm. You realize that calmness was never dependent on circumstances. It was within you all along. Imagine you lose something precious. The natural reaction is grief. But when you face that grief with awareness, when you breathe with it, allow it, feel it fully without running, you notice something miraculous. The pain passes. It changes shape. It teaches. And in the center of that pain, a strange stillness remains. That stillness is your true nature, unchanging, indestructible, serene. Acceptance opens the door to wisdom. Once you stop fighting with life, you can listen to it. And life in its silence begins to whisper truths that you could not hear while you were busy resisting. You start to understand the impermanence of all things: joy, sorrow, failure, success. They come and go like clouds across the sky. When you see this clearly, the weight of fear lifts. What can truly harm you if all things are changing and passing? The art of acceptance also extends inward. Often the most difficult person to accept is oneself. We carry guilt, shame, and expectations that crush the soul. But through mindful awareness, you begin to look at yourself not with judgment, but with compassion. You understand that you too are part of this changing flow of existence, learning, failing, growing, just like everyone else. When you accept yourself, you awaken the inner strength to evolve. Because only in the light of acceptance can transformation take place. The Buddha compared this to the lotus flower. It grows in muddy water, yet blossoms in purity. Similarly, when you accept the mud of your life, its mistakes, its darkness, you give birth to wisdom and beauty that could never have emerged otherwise. Acceptance does not erase pain, but it transforms your relationship with it. You move from being a victim of circumstances to being a conscious participant in the unfolding of life. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Through this simple yet profound shift, your inner strength begins to awaken. It is not the strength of control, but the strength of surrender. It is not about changing the world outside, but changing the way you meet it inside. Every moment you practice acceptance, you step closer to freedom, the freedom that cannot be taken by loss, by failure, or even by death. For freedom is not found in changing reality, but in fully embracing it. So, when life next challenges you, when plans fail, relationships shift, or emotions rise, remember this is not a punishment, but an invitation to see what is, to accept it without fear, and to rediscover the calm strength that has always lived within you. If this first lesson has brought clarity to your heart, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps this message of peace and awakening reach others who may be seeking the same light you found here. The power of mindfulness, turning the present moment into your greatest source of strength. Mindfulness is the heartbeat of Buddhism, the living awareness that brings you back from the illusions of the past and the anxieties of the future. It is not simply a meditation technique or a mental exercise. It is a sacred way of seeing, of being alive in this very instant. The Buddha taught that liberation begins the moment we learn to see clearly, and mindfulness is the art of clear seeing. It teaches you to anchor yourself in the present where life actually unfolds. The mind that wanders between what was and what might be is like a restless monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never finding rest. But when you train that mind to stay with the breath, the step, the sound, the heartbeat of now, you begin to touch the calm center that has always been there. In that center lies a strength so deep that no external force can shake it. To live mindfully means to awaken to the truth that this moment is all you ever truly possess. The past is memory, the future is imagination. Only this breath is real. And yet, we so often neglect this breath, this heartbeat, this single sacred second that could transform our understanding of life. We are constantly chasing the next thing, the next achievement, the next relationship, the next source of happiness, unaware that everything we seek is already here, hidden behind the fog of distraction. The practice of mindfulness clears that fog. It brings you home. When you sit in silence and bring attention to your breathing, you begin to notice something extraordinary. The world does not need to change for you to feel peace. Peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in perfect awareness. The same world that once felt chaotic starts to slow down. You begin to hear the rhythm beneath the noise, the beauty beneath the ordinary. Washing a dish becomes a meditation. Walking across the street becomes a lesson in grace. Even pain becomes a teacher, showing you how to remain steady amidst life's storms. The Buddha often used the image of the lotus flower rising unstained from muddy waters. Mindfulness is that purity that allows you to dwell in the middle of life's mess without being dirtied by it. It does not mean you escape reality. It means you meet it fully. You observe thoughts come and go without clinging. You watch emotions rise and fall without judgment. You learn to inhabit your body, to listen to your feelings, to breathe through discomfort instead of running from it. Over time, this simple awareness grows into an incredible power, the power to remain unshaken. Mindfulness gives you the ability to pause before reacting. It builds a gap between the stimulus and your response, and within that gap, you discover freedom. Most people live like puppets of their emotions. Someone offends them, they react with anger. Something doesn't go their way, they collapse into frustration. The mindful person sees these waves arise, but does not drown in them. Instead, they let them pass like clouds across a vast sky. The mind remains clear, vast, and open. This clarity allows wisdom to emerge naturally. In this way, mindfulness transforms suffering. When pain comes, mindfulness teaches you not to run, but to observe. You might feel a tightening in your chest, a heaviness in your heart, a flood of anxious thoughts. But instead of getting lost in them, you breathe and simply say, "This is what anxiety feels like." That small act of awareness creates distance. You become the observer, not the prisoner, and when you observe deeply, you see that even the most intense emotion is impermanent. It rises, peaks, fades, and disappears. You learn to trust this truth, that nothing, no matter how painful, lasts forever. Over time, this realization becomes the foundation of inner strength. You stop fearing your feelings. You stop fighting life. You become like the ocean, calm on the surface or stormy, but always deep, always whole. You understand that you are not the waves of experience, but the awareness in which those waves arise. This is the ultimate power of mindfulness. It reveals that your true self is beyond every thought, every emotion, every changing form. It shows you the unshakable stillness that has been with you since birth. The practice of mindfulness is deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. You begin with something as small as breathing. You sit, you breathe, you feel. The mind wanders, a memory of yesterday, a worry about tomorrow. But each time you bring it back gently, without judgment. Each return strengthens your inner muscle of awareness. Each moment of return is a victory. You begin to carry this awareness beyond meditation into your work, your conversations, your meals. Mindfulness becomes a way of living, not a technique reserved for quiet moments. When you walk mindfully, you realize how much beauty has always surrounded you, but was missed in your rush. The wind on your face, the taste of water, the warmth of sunlight, all become sacred experiences. This renewed perception of life gives you strength because it reconnects you with the miracle of existence itself. You are no longer lost in your head. You are alive in your body, grounded in reality. And when you are grounded, fear loses its power. In relationships, mindfulness becomes compassion. You begin to listen deeply, not waiting for your turn to speak, not judging the other person's words, but truly being present with their feelings. This presence can heal wounds more deeply than any advice, because when you are fully present, people feel seen, they feel safe. You become a mirror of peace for them, and this reflection transforms both of you. The mindful person also learns to see impermanence, not as a source of sorrow, but as a source of beauty. You realize that everything changes. Flowers bloom and wither, moments arise and fade, people come and go, and this very transience makes life precious. To be mindful is to love more deeply, because you know nothing lasts forever. Each breath, each encounter becomes an offering to eternity. When you eat, you taste completely. When you speak truthfully. When you rest fully. In doing so, your life becomes meditation in motion, not a series of tasks to complete, but a sacred dance of awareness. Mindfulness also strengthens your connection with compassion for yourself. In the silence of presence, you begin to notice how harshly you've treated yourself, the endless self-criticism, the expectations, the guilt. But awareness melts judgment. You start to forgive yourself for not being perfect. You realize that being mindful does not mean being flawless. It means being awake to your humanity. You stop demanding that life be different. You stop demanding that you be different. This self-acceptance, born of awareness, is the seed of profound peace. Even in moments of chaos, mindfulness protects you. The world may be falling apart around you. People may disappoint you. Plans may crumble. But when you can return to your breath, you return to sanctuary. This small act becomes an anchor that holds you steady when everything else feels uncertain. When fear strikes, you breathe. When anger rises, you observe. When sadness comes, you let it sit beside you. You learn that emotions are visitors, not enemies. You don't have to banish them. You simply have to offer them awareness. Eventually, they leave on their own. The Buddha once said that the mind is like a lamp in a dark room. When lit with mindfulness, it illuminates everything without preference, joy and pain alike. The more you practice, the brighter that light becomes. It begins to illuminate the darker corners of your being, your attachments, your fears, your hidden desires. You start to see yourself with clarity, and clarity brings transformation. You stop being a stranger to yourself. You begin to live consciously, intentionally, courageously. This courage born from mindfulness is not loud or aggressive. It is quiet, unyielding, rooted in truth. When others panic, you remain calm. When others cling, you let go. When others judge, you understand. This inner steadiness becomes your strength. It does not mean you are emotionless. It means you are free. You still feel everything, joy, sorrow, anger, love, but none of it controls you. You feel, you release, you move forward. Mindfulness also reveals the interconnectedness of all beings. When you are fully aware, the illusion of separation dissolves. You see that your happiness is tied to the happiness of others. The air you breathe has passed through countless lives. The food you eat is the result of infinite causes: rain, sun, soil, farmers, time. Realizing this, gratitude blossoms naturally. You no longer take life for granted. You treat others and the earth itself with reverence. This awareness brings humility, and humility is one of the purest forms of strength. The mindful person learns that strength does not come from dominance, but from harmony. You stop fighting against the current of existence and instead learn to move with it. You flow like water, adaptable, gentle, yet powerful enough to shape mountains. You learn to bend without breaking, to surrender without losing yourself. Mindfulness teaches you that surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. In the modern world, mindfulness is often mistaken for a relaxation technique, a way to calm the nerves or improve focus. But its true purpose runs deeper. It is to wake you up from the dream of unconscious living. It asks you to stop being a passenger of your thoughts and become the witness of your own existence. This witnessing changes everything. Problems that once felt unbearable lose their grip because you see them for what they are: temporary ripples in the infinite ocean of awareness. In the end, mindfulness reveals that what you were searching for, peace, strength, clarity, was never lost. It was hidden beneath layers of distraction and resistance. By returning to the present moment again and again, you strip away those layers until nothing remains but pure being. And in that being, there is a joy that cannot be described, the joy of simply existing, fully awake. This is the essence of inner strength according to Buddhism: to remain awake in a world that sleeps, to remain kind in a world that hardens, to remain calm in a world that burns. Such strength cannot be destroyed because it does not depend on anything outside you. It is the natural radiance of an aware mind. If this lesson has helped you touch that still place within, that silent power that nothing can take away, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Each act of support helps this message of awakening and mindfulness reach others who may be lost in the storm, searching for the same light you are rediscovering right now. The middle way, finding balance in a world of extremes. The Buddha's life itself is the greatest teaching of balance. Before he awakened, Siddhartha Gautama experienced both extremes. He lived in the luxury of palaces, surrounded by indulgence, comfort, and endless distraction. Later, seeking truth, he abandoned all comfort and embraced severe asceticism, starving himself, sleeping on thorns, denying every human need. Yet neither pleasure nor pain brought him liberation. It was only when he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and realized the futility of extremes that he discovered what he called the middle way, a path of harmony, moderation, and deep awareness that leads to freedom. This lesson is timeless, and in our modern age of extremes, perhaps more relevant than ever. The middle way is not merely about lifestyle. It is a profound psychological and spiritual principle. It is the art of walking between opposites, between craving and aversion, control and surrender, action and stillness, without being enslaved by either. To walk the middle way is to awaken from the illusion that happiness lies in excess or deprivation. Both are traps. Pleasure promises satisfaction but breeds addiction. Denial promises purity but creates repression. The Buddha saw that both stem from the same ignorance, the belief that fulfillment can be found by clinging to or escaping from experience. True peace, he realized, comes from being fully present with life as it is, without grasping or rejecting. It is not the denial of desire, nor its blind pursuit, but its understanding. When you see the nature of desire clearly, it loses its power over you. You begin to act, not from compulsion, but from wisdom. In the modern world, we are constantly pulled toward extremes. Society glorifies excess, work without rest, stimulation without silence, consumption without pause. Our minds are flooded with information, our senses bombarded with noise. We chase highs, success, recognition, pleasure, believing that more will finally be enough. But the more we run, the emptier we feel. The middle way reminds us that peace is not found in more, but in enough. It invites us to slow down, to step out of the pendulum swing of extremes, and to rediscover the sacred balance of being human. To live the middle way is to cultivate harmony in all aspects of life, in thought, emotion, behavior, and relationship. It begins with awareness. You notice when your mind leans toward excess, toward obsession, ambition, or indulgence, and when it leans toward deprivation, toward guilt, denial, or suppression. You start to observe your inner pendulum and, with mindfulness, bring it back to center. This simple act of returning is liberation itself, because each time you return to balance, you reclaim your power from unconscious habit. The middle way does not mean a life of dull neutrality. It is not mediocrity or apathy. It is a dynamic equilibrium, like a tightrope walker who adjusts constantly, moment by moment. Balance requires alertness. The tightrope walker cannot freeze. She must feel, respond, and move gracefully with every step. Similarly, the spiritual seeker must feel life deeply, but not cling to it. He must act with intensity, but not attachment. The middle way is alive, responsive, and compassionate. This balance extends beyond your habits into the very fabric of your mind. Consider the way thoughts arise, between extremes of optimism and despair, hope and fear. The untrained mind swings violently between these poles. One moment it is elated, the next it is crushed. But the balanced mind observes both joy and sorrow without being consumed by either. It understands that both are impermanent, two sides of the same coin. This understanding breeds stability. You become like a tree whose roots run deep. Winds may blow, but you remain grounded. The Buddha described this middle state as the cessation of craving. Craving is not just desire, it is desire mixed with clinging, the belief that happiness depends on obtaining or avoiding something. When craving falls away, even temporarily, you feel the spaciousness of freedom. You can enjoy pleasure without being bound by it, and endure pain without being destroyed by it. This inner balance is the essence of spiritual maturity. It allows you to live fully without losing yourself in what you experience. In practice, walking the middle way often means embracing moderation in your daily life. It means caring for your body without worshipping it, working diligently without becoming a slave to achievement, resting without falling into laziness, speaking truth without cruelty, helping others without losing yourself. Every moment becomes a chance to realign with balance. You may fail 1,000 times, but each time you notice and return, you strengthen your inner equilibrium. This returning, again and again, is the living practice of the middle way. Balance also applies to emotions. Many people believe strength means suppressing emotion, but the Buddha taught otherwise. To feel is human, to be consumed is suffering. When anger arises, do not deny it or act it out, simply observe it. Anger is energy. It burns because it wants something to change. When you see it clearly, without judgment, you understand its roots, perhaps pain, fear, or unmet expectations. In that understanding, anger loses its fire. You respond with wisdom instead of reaction. This is the balance between feeling and freedom. The same applies to sadness, anxiety, or joy. Each emotion can become an opportunity to practice balance, to neither drown in it nor run from it. The middle way also offers profound insight into relationships. When we love without balance, we often fall into attachment or avoidance. We either cling too tightly, fearing loss, or withdraw too much, fearing vulnerability. But when love is balanced by wisdom, it becomes compassion. You love fully, but freely. You give, but do not expect. You care, but do not possess. You allow others to be as they are, and in doing so, you discover that love rooted in balance is infinitely stronger than love rooted in need. This principle of balance also transforms how you view failure and success. When you chase success obsessively, you suffer every setback as a personal wound. When you fear failure, you never take risks. The middle way teaches that success and failure are simply results. Neither defines your worth. You act with full effort, full awareness, and release the outcome. When you can smile equally at victory and defeat, you have found the freedom of the middle way. The middle way also means finding harmony between effort and letting go. The path of awakening is not achieved through force. It is a dance between discipline and surrender. Too much effort leads to tension. Too little effort leads to stagnation. The Buddha compared it to tuning a lute. If the string is too tight, it will break. If too loose, it won't play. The art is in finding the right tension, the point of harmony. Likewise, in your own practice, the middle way invites you to work diligently, but with gentleness. You give your best without violence toward yourself. You meditate, not to attain something, but to simply be. This principle of balance extends to thought itself. When you think too much, you become tangled in complexity. When you think too little, you drift into ignorance. Wisdom arises from the balance between reflection and silence. The Buddha often encouraged contemplation followed by quiet absorption. You think deeply, then release thought into stillness. Like inhaling and exhaling, balance lives in rhythm. You learn when to speak and when to be silent, when to act and when to rest. In this harmony, you find peace that does not depend on circumstance. Another form of balance lies between self and others. Some people devote themselves entirely to serving others, forgetting their own well-being. Others live only for themselves, blind to the needs of the world. Both extremes lead to imbalance and suffering. The middle way teaches that compassion must include yourself. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. True service arises from wholeness, not sacrifice. When you nurture your own peace, you have more to offer the world. When you care for the world, you discover your own healing. This reciprocity is the heart of balanced living. Balance also applies to knowledge and mystery. In the age of information, we believe knowing more will solve everything. Yet there are truths that cannot be grasped by intellect alone. The Buddha taught that the ultimate reality, the nature of enlightenment, transcends conceptual thought. To walk the middle way between knowing and not knowing is to remain open. You learn, but do not cling to views. You question, but remain humble. This openness keeps the mind flexible, alive, capable of growth. The fanatic clings to certainty. The wise remain balanced between clarity and mystery. In modern life, where speed and extremes dominate, the middle way offers refuge. It asks you to step back from constant comparison, from the endless swing between self-loathing and self-exaltation, from the craving for perfection and the fear of failure. It invites you to breathe, to return to simplicity. You do not need to prove your worth through extremes. Your worth lies in your being, in your awareness, in your capacity for balance. Walking the middle way is not a one-time realization, it is a lifelong practice. Every day presents new challenges, temptations to overindulge or to withdraw, to rush or to procrastinate, to speak too much or remain silent when truth is needed. Balance is found not in perfection but in returning, like a pendulum that eventually settles at its center. Each time you notice and realign, you grow closer to harmony. This lesson also reminds you to respect the natural cycles of life. Just as the seasons balance one another, spring's growth, summer's fullness, autumn's decay, winter's rest, so too does your life require rhythm. You cannot always be in summer. There must be times of stillness, loss, reflection, and renewal. When you honor this balance, you stop fighting life's natural flow. You understand that every phase, even the dark ones, has purpose. The middle way teaches that peace is not found in endless light, but in the dance between light and shadow. Perhaps the most profound balance of all is between the human and the divine, the personal and the universal. When you identify only with the personal self, your name, story, successes and wounds, you suffer endlessly. When you deny the personal and try to dissolve into pure detachment, you lose connection with the living world. The Buddha's middle way unites both. You live as a person, but with the awareness that you are more than this form. You feel deeply, love deeply, act fully, yet remain free. You become a bridge between earth and sky, human and spirit. In this space of balance, you rediscover what true strength means. It is not the strength of extremes, of relentless ambition or cold detachment, but the strength of serenity. It is the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and not lose your center, to act with compassion even when hurt, to stay calm when the world demands reaction. This strength arises not from control, but from understanding. You know that all things pass, that every extreme eventually collapses back into the middle. By resting in that truth, you become unshakable. The middle way is not an escape from life's difficulties, it is the way through them. It teaches you to meet both joy and sorrow with an open heart. It reminds you that balance is not a destination, but a movement, an ongoing dance of awareness. And as you walk this path, you begin to see that balance itself is enlightenment in motion, awareness flowing effortlessly through every aspect of being. If this lesson on balance has spoken to you, if it reminded you of the quiet power that comes from living between extremes, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel. Each new soul who joins helps spread this message of harmony, awareness and strength so that more people may rediscover the peace of the middle way. The wisdom of impermanence, finding strength in change. The fourth lesson that awakens the deepest inner strength in Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence. Everything in life is constantly changing, flowing, evolving, decaying and transforming. Nothing stays the same for long. Not your body, not your thoughts, not your relationships, not your achievements, not even the moments that you wish would last forever. The Buddha called this truth anicca, the law of impermanence, and it is one of the most profound insights that can transform the way you experience existence. To see impermanence not as a threat, but as a teacher, is to awaken a strength that cannot be broken by loss or change. It is to stand calmly within the river of time, knowing that every wave that rises will also fall, and that this endless movement is not something to fear. It is the heartbeat of life itself. From the moment we are born, we are in motion. Cells are dying and regenerating, thoughts are appearing and fading, emotions are blooming and dissolving. Yet our minds often resist this natural flow. We want permanence. We want the good times to stay, the people we love to remain, the things we have achieved to define us forever. But when we cling to what cannot stay, we create suffering. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. The truth of impermanence is not meant to depress you, it is meant to free you. It reminds you that you don't need to fight change. You can learn to flow with it. Think about the seasons of nature. No leaf clings to the tree forever. No winter lasts without end. The beauty of the world comes from this very movement, the dance between birth and decay, growth and death. Impermanence gives life its depth and meaning. If everything were frozen in place, there would be no transformation, no growth, no beauty in fleeting sunsets or laughter that fades into silence. It is because everything ends that everything matters. Yet humans struggle with this truth. We want to hold on, to love, to youth, to success, to certainty. We fear endings because we confuse impermanence with loss. But the Buddha teaches that impermanence is not the enemy. Attachment is. When we hold tightly to what is naturally changing, we suffer. But when we open our hands and allow life to flow through us, we discover an incredible peace. The heart that accepts impermanence learns to love more deeply because it knows that every encounter, every smile, every breath is precious precisely because it will not last. To truly live with awareness of impermanence is to awaken to the miracle of each moment. You stop postponing happiness for some future time because you realize that tomorrow is not guaranteed. You stop clinging to the past because you understand that the past no longer exists except in memory. You stop fighting change because you see that change is life expressing itself. Instead of asking life to stay still, you learn to dance with it. This dance, this flow, is the essence of strength in Buddhism, the ability to move with what is, without breaking under what changes. In practice, impermanence can feel painful. When someone you love dies, or when a relationship ends, or when your youth fades, you may feel an emptiness, a tearing of the heart. But that emptiness is not the absence of meaning. It is space, the same space that allows something new to arise. When a flower dies, it returns to the soil, nourishing new growth. When a season ends, another begins. The end of one form gives birth to another. Impermanence, seen through wisdom, is not destruction, but renewal. Every sorrow in life carries within it the seed of awakening. When you face loss, you are given a choice. You can resist it, clinging to what was, or you can open to it, allowing it to teach you. Those who awaken through pain discover a strength that no comfort could ever give them. They realize that nothing external can truly be possessed, and therefore nothing external can truly destroy their peace. When you no longer depend on things staying the same to feel safe, you become free. Impermanence also invites humility. We live in a world that worships control, the illusion that if we plan carefully enough, we can keep everything in place. But life constantly reminds us that control is temporary. Illness comes, relationships shift, unexpected events unfold. To fight impermanence is to fight reality itself. Humility is the strength to bow before life and say, I do not control you, but I can learn to flow with you. This acceptance does not mean passivity, it means alignment. You stop wasting energy trying to freeze the river and instead learn to navigate it skillfully. When you embrace impermanence, you begin to see beauty in the passing of time. You realize that even pain has its purpose. It awakens compassion, softens pride, deepens understanding. You stop fearing endings because you see that they are gateways to beginnings. Every ending you've ever experienced has led you to a new chapter, a new version of yourself. Life is a continuous process of dying and being reborn in countless ways. This understanding changes how you love. When you accept that the people you love will one day change, leave, or die, you stop taking them for granted. You become fully present with them. You listen more deeply, forgive more easily, express your affection more freely. Impermanence gives rise to gratitude. Instead of demanding that life give you more, you become thankful for what it already offers. This breath, this morning, this chance to be alive. Gratitude rooted in impermanence is powerful because it does not depend on circumstance. It grows from understanding. The Buddha often used the image of the candle flame to illustrate impermanence. Each moment the flame burns, yet it is never the same flame twice. The wax melts, the air moves, the fire consumes and renews itself simultaneously. Life is like that. Each instant alive, transforming, ungraspable. You cannot step into the same river twice, because both you and the river have changed. Once you truly see this, you begin to release the illusion of permanence. You stop clinging to fixed identities. I am this, I am that, I will always be this way. You start to see that you too are a process, a living, breathing transformation. This insight dissolves fear. How can you fear change when you are change? In meditation, impermanence becomes directly observable. You sit, breathe, and watch sensations arise and pass. An itch appears, then fades. A sound intrudes, then vanishes. A thought arises, then dissolves. You see, moment by moment, that nothing stays. At first this may feel unsettling, but soon you begin to find peace in it. You realize that your problems, like all things, also arise and pass. The storm always ends. The pain always shifts. The night always gives way to dawn. Impermanence is the ultimate comfort because it guarantees that suffering is never eternal. This understanding also brings wisdom in dealing with pleasure. The same awareness that consoles you in pain also humbles you in joy. When you experience happiness, you enjoy it fully but without clinging. You savor it, knowing it too will pass. And because you don't demand it to stay, you can appreciate it without fear. In this way, impermanence teaches you to love deeply but freely, to live fully but lightly. You learn to let go even as you hold, to enjoy without attachment, to be grateful without possession. Impermanence is also a teacher of compassion. When you see that all beings are subject to change, aging, and death, your heart softens. You no longer judge others harshly because you recognize that everyone is doing their best within the same fragile, impermanent reality. You stop holding grudges because you understand that even the person who hurt you will change, that resentment itself is impermanent, and that clinging to it only prolongs your suffering. Letting go becomes easier when you realize that nothing is truly fixed, not even pain. The lesson of impermanence also applies to the self. The I you think you are is not solid. It is a stream of moments, memories, and sensations constantly flowing. What you call myself is a collection of changing conditions. When you truly understand this, ego loses its grip. You no longer have to defend an identity or chase validation. You realize that your true nature is not a fixed form, but the awareness that observes all forms passing. In this realization lies unshakable freedom. To embrace impermanence is also to make peace with death. The Buddha taught that reflecting on death is not morbid, but liberating. When you remember that life is temporary, you stop wasting it. You stop postponing love, forgiveness, or joy. You live with urgency, but without panic, with purpose, but without attachment. You understand that death is not an enemy, but a continuation of change, the same law that governs every falling leaf and rising star. The wise do not fear death because they see that life and death are not two, they are one continuous flow. Impermanence can also heal the anxiety of modern life. So much of our stress comes from trying to control what is uncontrollable, wanting things to stay fixed, fearing their loss. But when you surrender to the rhythm of change, your mind relaxes. You learn to trust the unfolding of life. You realize that what leaves your life makes space for what needs to arrive. You start to live not from resistance, but from faith, not blind faith, but the quiet trust that life in its impermanence has its own wisdom. This lesson is also a call to courage. To embrace impermanence means to open your heart to the unknown. Change can be frightening because it strips away what is familiar. But what is familiar is not always what is best for you. Growth requires letting go. Every transformation, spiritual, emotional, or physical, requires a death of something old so that something new can be born. When you understand this, You stop clinging to the ashes of what has burned and start walking toward what is waiting to emerge. There is immense strength in the ability to let go gracefully. The person who can let go is not weak. They are strong because they trust life. Letting go is not about indifference. It is about love rooted in wisdom. You love what you have, but you do not imprison it. You allow it to change, to move, to transform. You do not demand permanence from what was never meant to be permanent. This openness makes you resilient. You can face loss, failure, and change with dignity because you know that each ending carries within it the seed of rebirth. Impermanence also deepens your appreciation for simplicity. When you understand that everything passes, you stop chasing what doesn't matter. You simplify your life, declutter your heart, and focus on what truly brings meaning: love, awareness, kindness, presence. You begin to live each day not as a race to accumulate, but as a chance to awaken. You realize that happiness does not come from adding more, but from holding less. Eventually, this wisdom leads you to a profound peace. You no longer need to cling, chase, or resist. You live in alignment with the rhythm of life. You become like a leaf in the wind, free yet guided. You trust the movement of things. You understand that you are not separate from impermanence. You are its expression. Your strength comes not from control, but from harmony. You stop fearing what changes because you see that change is the way life renews itself. You stop fearing death because you realize that nothing truly ends. It only transforms. To live with awareness of impermanence is to live with freedom. You no longer depend on external stability because you have found internal stability, the calm acceptance that all things rise and fall. When you live like this, no event can truly break you. You may grieve, you may feel pain, but beneath it all there is a deep knowing: this too shall pass. Every experience becomes a wave on the ocean of your being, appearing, dissolving, and leaving the ocean unchanged. That ocean is your true self, vast, peaceful, eternal awareness, witnessing the play of impermanence. If this lesson has helped you see life more clearly, if it has reminded you that strength lies not in holding on, but in letting go, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel. Each new person who joins helps spread the wisdom of awakening, compassion, and impermanence, so that more souls may find peace in a world that is always changing, yet always whole. Compassion, the highest form of strength. In Buddhism, compassion is not merely a feeling of sympathy or a soft emotion reserved for saints and monks. It is the ultimate expression of inner power. It is the realization that the boundaries between self and other are illusions, and that to heal another being is to heal yourself. Compassion, karuna in Pali, is the heart of the awakened mind, the force that transforms suffering into understanding and conflict into harmony. To develop compassion is not to become weak, passive, or sentimental. It is to awaken the kind of strength that can hold pain without breaking, love without possession, and act with wisdom even in the face of cruelty. Compassion, the Buddha taught, is the antidote to every poison the mind creates: anger, fear, greed, pride, hatred. It is not a virtue to be acquired, it is your true nature, waiting to be uncovered beneath the dust of ego. To understand compassion deeply, one must first understand suffering. The Buddha's path begins with acknowledging the reality of suffering, not as pessimism, but as truth. When you open your heart to the pain in yourself, you begin to understand the pain in others. Most people run from suffering. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or project it outward as blame. But the compassionate person turns inward with courage and looks directly at their wounds. They see that beneath every anger is a cry for love. Beneath every fear is a longing for safety, and beneath every cruelty is ignorance. This insight changes everything. You stop judging others because you see that their actions, no matter how misguided, come from the same confusion and pain that once lived in you. Judgment gives way to understanding, and understanding gives birth to compassion. Compassion begins at home, within your own heart. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. If you hate yourself, you will inevitably project that hate onto others. If you are harsh toward your own mistakes, you will be harsh toward the world. The Buddha said that you yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is sanity. It is the recognition that you are a being in process, learning through trial and error. When you treat yourself kindly, you stop being at war with yourself. This peace radiates outward naturally. A compassionate person does not need to force kindness. It flows effortlessly, like water from a spring. True compassion is not selective. It does not choose who is worthy of love. It does not divide the world into good and bad, friend and enemy. It embraces all beings without exception. This is one of the hardest truths for the human heart to accept. We find it easy to feel compassion for those who are kind, who share our views, who make us feel good. But the Buddha invites us to extend that same love to those who challenge us, who hurt us, who reflect the parts of ourselves we would rather not see. This does not mean approving of their actions. It means recognizing their humanity. To see the divine in your enemy is to awaken a strength that transcends all ordinary courage. The person who can wish peace even for those who bring pain has mastered the highest form of power. Compassion does not mean weakness. It is not about being a doormat or allowing others to harm you. Compassion includes wisdom. It knows when to say no, when to create boundaries, when to step back. True compassion is like the hand of a surgeon. It can be gentle or firm, cutting away what causes harm, but always with the intention of healing. A compassionate heart is not sentimental, it is fierce. It acts not from pity, but from clarity. It sees the suffering in others and responds appropriately, not to please, but to free. In this way, compassion becomes a skill, an art of living consciously in a world filled with pain. The Buddha taught 4 boundless qualities: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Compassion is the second of these, and it naturally arises from loving kindness, metta. Loving kindness wishes all beings happiness. Compassion wishes them freedom from suffering. Together they form the wings of the awakened heart. When you cultivate compassion through meditation or mindful living, you begin to dissolve the walls between you and others. You start to see your reflection in every face: the beggar, the child, the enemy, the friend. Every living being becomes part of your spiritual family. You realize that no one truly wins until all are free. One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is the metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. In this practice, you sit quietly, breathe deeply, and repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be happy, may I be safe, may I be free from suffering. Indeed, at first, these phrases may feel mechanical or empty, but as you continue, something begins to shift. You start to feel warmth toward yourself, a gentle acceptance. Then you extend this feeling outward, to someone you love, to a neutral person, to someone who has hurt you, and finally to all beings. Through repetition, your heart expands beyond its habitual limits. You discover that love is not something you have to create. It's something you uncover by removing barriers. Each breath becomes an act of healing, each thought of goodwill a seed of transformation. Compassion also transforms how you handle your own pain. When you suffer, the mind's instinct is to resist, to say, "Why me?" But when you respond with compassion, you hold your suffering tenderly, like a mother holding her crying child. You stop labeling your pain as a curse and begin to see it as a teacher. The Buddha called this the second arrow. The first arrow is the inevitable pain that life brings: loss, illness, disappointment. The second arrow is the suffering we add by resisting the first: anger, guilt, blame. Compassion removes the second arrow. It says, "This hurts, but I can hold it." That simple act of holding, of not turning away, transforms pain into wisdom. You discover that the heart is infinitely more resilient than you thought. It can break open without breaking down. The world today desperately needs compassion. We live in an age of separation, divided by politics, race, religion, ideology. Fear has replaced understanding, judgment has replaced empathy, but compassion cuts through all illusions of separation. It reminds us that beneath our differences, we share the same fragile humanity. We all seek happiness. We all avoid pain. We all long to be seen and loved. When you remember this, you can no longer dehumanize others. Compassion becomes a form of resistance against the forces of greed and hatred that dominate the world. To act with compassion in a cruel world is an act of rebellion. It is choosing love where fear demands hate. Compassion also requires courage, the courage to feel. Many people avoid compassion because it hurts to open your heart. When you see suffering in others, you feel it in yourself. But the Buddha taught that this shared pain is the path to liberation. To feel deeply is not weakness, it is strength. When your heart is open, you can face the world as it is without turning numb. You can walk into the darkness with a light that heals rather than harms. Compassion does not eliminate pain, but it gives it meaning. It turns the wound into a doorway to wisdom. The Bodhisattva ideal in Mahayana Buddhism embodies this ultimate compassion. A Bodhisattva is one who vows to attain enlightenment, not for themselves alone, but for the liberation of all beings. They postpone their own final nirvana until every creature is free. This vow represents the purest form of love, the willingness to share in the suffering of others for their awakening. The Bodhisattva sees no difference between self and other. The boundaries dissolve completely. Though this may seem impossible to ordinary minds, every act of genuine kindness brings you closer to that state. Each time you help someone without expecting reward, each time you forgive when you could have hated, each time you listen deeply to another's pain, you walk the Bodhisattva path. Compassion also connects you to the natural world. When your heart opens, you begin to see the suffering of animals, forests, oceans, and the planet itself. You realize that exploitation of the earth is not separate from exploitation of people. It is the same ignorance playing out on a larger scale. The compassionate person naturally lives with awareness, consuming less, harming less, caring more. This is not ideology. It is sensitivity. You begin to feel the pulse of life in everything, the breeze in the trees, the water in the river, the cry of a bird. Each breath becomes an acknowledgement of interconnectedness. You cannot hurt the world without hurting yourself. One of the most profound aspects of compassion is that it dissolves the ego. When you act from genuine care, there is no I doing the helping. The action arises spontaneously, like a flame giving light. The ego may try to claim credit. I am kind, I am generous. But true compassion has no thought of self. It gives because giving is natural. In this state, even small acts, a smile, a gentle word, a patient ear, carry immense power. You never know how far the ripples of your kindness will travel. One compassionate act can change a life, and through that life, countless others. Practicing compassion in everyday life means transforming ordinary interactions into sacred opportunities. When someone speaks harshly, instead of reacting with anger, you pause and ask, what pain might they be carrying? When a stranger cuts you off in traffic, you breathe and remind yourself that they too are struggling. When you witness injustice, you act not from hatred, but from love for truth. This does not mean inaction, it means wise action. Compassion gives you clarity to act without creating further harm. It teaches you that how you fight for good matters as much as what you fight for. Compassion also brings balance to reason. Without compassion, wisdom becomes cold. Without wisdom, compassion becomes blind. Together, they create wholeness. A compassionate person sees clearly but feels deeply. They do not let emotion cloud their judgment, nor intellect dry up their heart. They act with precision and tenderness at once. This is the balance the Buddha embodied, complete awareness united with infinite love. Such a being radiates peace wherever they go. They are not saints floating above the world. They are fully human, yet rooted in something timeless. To cultivate compassion, start small. Begin with the people closest to you. Offer patience where you once offered irritation. Listen without interrupting. Give without expectation. Slowly, this practice will expand beyond your immediate circle to colleagues, strangers, even those you dislike. The more you practice, the easier it becomes because compassion is contagious. It creates resonance. When you meet a compassionate person, you feel safe, seen, and softened. Their presence reminds you of your own goodness. In this way, compassion multiplies, lighting the world one heart at a time. Ultimately, compassion transforms suffering itself. When you live with an open heart, pain no longer feels meaningless. You understand that your own suffering connects you to others. You are no longer isolated by pain. You are united through it. The wound becomes the meeting point between souls. From this place, you begin to see that compassion is not something you do. It is something you are. The awakened person does not ask, "Should I be kind?" They simply act from their nature, like the sun that shines because it cannot do otherwise. The greatest strength of compassion lies in its indestructibility. Everything else can be taken from you, your possessions, your health, your status, but no one can take your capacity to love. Even in prison, even in sickness, even at the moment of death, you can still wish others well. That power makes you truly free. Compassion is not dependent on circumstances. It is the essence of awakened consciousness itself. It turns every situation, even tragedy, into an opportunity to expand love. When the Buddha reached enlightenment, his first impulse was not to remain in bliss, but to share his insight with the world. That impulse, to serve, to help others awaken, is compassion in its purest form. Enlightenment without compassion is incomplete. Wisdom that does not serve is sterile. The Buddha's teachings endure, not because of intellectual brilliance, but because they spring from limitless love. Every time you choose compassion, you continue that legacy. You become part of the same stream of awakening that has been flowing for thousands of years. And so compassion is not the end of the path. It is the path itself. It is both the means and the destination. To live with compassion is to live as an awakened being in a world still dreaming. It is to walk through fire without hatred, to face darkness without despair, to love without limit. The world may not change overnight, but your perception will. And when you change, the world around you begins to reflect that change. One compassionate heart can illuminate 1,000 others, and from those 1,000, 1,000,000. This is how transformation truly happens, not through force, but through love that asks for nothing in return. If this final lesson has touched something deep within you, if it has reminded you that the greatest strength you can cultivate is the strength to love, then take a moment now to subscribe to the channel. Your presence here helps spread the message of peace, mindfulness, and compassion to others who may be searching for hope in their own darkness. Let this community grow as a beacon of awakening, where wisdom and kindness walk hand in hand, guiding all who listen toward the strength that can never be broken, the strength of a compassionate heart.